I've had so many doubts, and mentally coming back from that, it's been tough.
I'm not going to lie. There were some really hard moments coming back from injury. Like there were some days when I was like, man, I'm done. Like I don't even want to do this anymore. Right. Having that faith and also realizing that like, I just got to get to work and I got to keep working and I got to keep grinding. And I don't need to expect it to be easy. Like it's supposed to be hard, but because it's hard, it's making me a better person. It's making me a better athlete. It's helping me grow. It's helping me learn. And it's okay to go through hard things. Yo!
Hello and welcome to BeRad, the podcast. Today I had Hayden Hawks on, professional ultra runner for Hoka, Black Canyon's most recent champion. I could go on and on. This guy's won a lot of races. I've been following his career and we've been kind of like going up in the same way. Both had a surgery this last year. Honestly, this is one of the most impactful conversations I've had on this podcast so far. I believe that every person who performs at a high level has a superpower. I've been trying to get Hayden on for a while because I've been super intrigued about his. He is a man of the church, and he attributes a lot of his success to just faith in himself, faith in God. And I loved hearing about how that played such a big part in his running. Thanks so much to our sponsor, Delta G, right here. As you guys know, I've been taking it before every single podcast I think I've been on. Let me know what you think. Use the link in the show notes to get your Delta G and use code BeRad20 for 20% off your order. All right, thanks guys. Enjoy the episode.
Hey man.
Hey Hayden, welcome to BeRad, the podcast.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me on. Sorry I was a bit late. I had to finish up my French toast and watch some of the U.S. Open. I'm a big golf fan, so I've been watching the U.S. Open and just finished a run. But happy to be on here.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. I'm surprised. Golf. What is it about golf that gets you?
I'm just a big sports fan in general. Like I like every sport, to be honest with you. My buddy from New Zealand, Dan Jones, has been living with us here in Cedar City and training with me for Western States. And he's a big cricket fan. And I've never got into cricket before. Of course, it's not very big here in the U.S., but apparently the World Cup for cricket is going on right now. So I've been watching a lot of cricket lately. And I've actually gained a love for cricket. And go USA. The USA cricket team's actually killing it this year. And so, yeah, I just love sports, like anything that's competitive, anything that has, that professional side to it. I just really love it. And I really follow along pretty much with any sport there is.
Yeah. So has that always been the case? And did that influence you growing up?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. So I grew up playing ball sports. I grew up playing baseball, basketball, football, wrestled a little bit, played golf actually growing up, different things like that. Did a lot of cycling and mountain biking. So I was just involved with anything that I could possibly do.
Yeah.
My parents would ask me hey, do you want to play this sport? Yeah, sign me up. Let's go for it. And, I grew to love some of them more than others, but and also probably a lot of it was if I was good at it, I loved it more. If I wasn't so good at it, I didn't like it. But I always just have followed sports. Like my parents used to call me they said that I was going to be a sports analyst someday because I just love stats and I love following sports stats and following different athletes. Like when I was younger, I was like an encyclopedia. You could ask me the batting average of any MLB baseball player and I could tell you what it was, how many home runs he'd hit the year before, how many RBIs he'd had, different things like that. And so it's just always been a passion of mine. And yeah, as I've gotten older, I've kind of learned about these new sports and I've kind of followed along with them. And yeah, it's just something that I really love and I try to be involved with as much as possible.
Nice. You might be the only other person. I also wrestled. I wrestled in my office. You might be the only other person I've talked to on this podcast that was a wrestler.
Yeah. I only did it for 2 years. I mean, To be honest with you, like running's a hard sport, but like wrestling was so much harder in my opinion because not only like do you have to like wrestle and be strong and all that, but like they do a lot of running as well. And just like the conditioning that you have to do to get ready to like for a wrestling season is just crazy. Like I remember like they would throw us in like the gym and turn up the heat to like this crazy amount, and we'd just be sitting there like sweating for hours, you know, wrestling, running, jump roping, doing all these different things. And it was just like you'd get done like by the end of the practice and you'd just be like, oh my gosh, I'm just so tired, I'm dehydrated, and it just
Yeah.
like wear you out the rest of the day.
And
But like
everybody's so low key about it.
yeah,
Like about
exactly. No one talks about it, right? Like wrestlers will never brag or say anything about it, but it's such a hard sport. Like the conditioning is just intense.
so hard. And now that I look back on my wrestling days, I'm like, it doesn't really make sense. You know, I'd always have my hardest workouts right before like my state meet or something in wrestling. And I'd be like, this seems counterproductive. But, you know, I think it's for this, a lot of wrestling is like, or maybe back then it was like, for, it's hard for the sake of being hard.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Exactly.
That's really interesting that you bring up that you love stats because I feel like ultra running is a sport where you can really apply a lot of stats and like there and I just think about, you know, there's been a lot of buzz about your nutrition at Black Canyons where you won, and I feel like, you know, part of what is difficult is for me is just like keeping track of what to eat when, and that is a stat, and that's like, you know, people who are numbers people thrive in that kind of situation. Like has that always been the case with nutrition and just like all the stats around ultra running?
Yes and no. I think when I first got into the sport, like I came from a road running track and field background where you don't really eat a lot, right? You don't really hydrate, you don't eat. Like I would do big workouts, you know, 2 hour long runs and stuff like that when I was in college, and I would have no fueling. Like I wouldn't eat nothing. I wouldn't even barely eat breakfast before I went out on the run. Which looking back on that now, I'm like, wow, I mean, I probably could have been so much better. Like I could have recovered faster. I could have probably avoided a lot of injury if I would have been on top of those things. But in college and in like high school, you don't really think about that, and you just try and run as light as possible. You don't want to carry anything on you. And you know, in ultra running, when I first got into ultra running, I was kind of that same way. I kind of had that same mindset. Like I don't need to eat as much. Like I can, you know, maybe if I don't eat as much, like I'm training my body to be able to handle not having nutrition, which we all know that that's not true. And it actually comes back to bite you and hurt you down the road, especially because you're underfueled. And, but that's pretty common with like high school and collegiate athletes. So I kind of had that same mindset coming into the sport, but I started working with my coach, my current coach now, Robbie Britton, about 4 or 5 years ago. And he is big on nutrition. Like he has a PhD in sports nutrition and he's been working with precision for years. And he's the one that really got me thinking about it and was like, hey man, like use your love for stats, use your love for numbers and apply that into your nutrition. And it will make a huge difference, like not only with your training, but with your racing. And you know, for the longest time I wanted to kind of keep it a secret, like be like, oh, this is my like advantage. Like, why do I want to share this with other people, right? But now like I've kind of gotten to a point where as I've gotten older, I've realized that like so many people struggle with nutrition. If I can be like a help to the younger generation, if I can be a help to anybody out there, like I hope that that's the case, like that I can help them. And so sharing what I do and sharing like my numbers and working with precision to do that has been like, I think a really good thing and a really positive thing. Like I was out at States Camp, you know, a few weeks ago, and some of the guys that I was running with out there were like, hey, thank you for sharing about your nutrition. Thank you for, you know, talking about your numbers because it's helped me up my game and want to like be better at my nutrition. And yeah, like while that might bring people closer to me, I guess competitive wise, like they're still gonna have to beat me on race day. And I feel like I could still, you know, I can still win almost any race as long as I'm on top of things and I'm, you know, prepared properly for it. And so like, and I want to be racing people at their best. You know, I don't want to be racing people that are struggling with nutrition. And so like, yeah, I think it's been a good thing. And honestly, it's made a big difference in my career, especially the last few years, I'd say.
Yeah, I'm sure it's really just going to extend a lot of careers. I mean, you look at the greats like 10 years ago when the philosophy was to eat as little as possible and to train to eat as little as possible. And look at how many people, were a flash in the pan. And I feel like nutrition is such a huge part of that.
Yeah, and it's not just like eating while running and racing as well. It's day-to-day nutrition, right? Like making sure that you're getting enough proteins in, that you're, fueling after your runs within a 30-minute period, so you're, recuperating a lot of those things that you just drained during your run. And it's proper hydration. It's a lot of little things that go into it, but like, yeah, proper fueling before, during, and after runs has made a huge difference to me. It's made me feel stronger. And like you said, I do think it will extend careers, and we're going to see a lot of like really good performances come out off it as well. Because,
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, if you can fuel, you can sustain efforts for longer period of time. It's pretty common sense, to be honest with you. Like once you drain the tank, the body just can't go anymore. Like just like a car, and so you got to
Totally.
keep fueling.
And if you drain it completely, it's way harder to refuel, not just like in the short term, but in the long term. If you like don't top off at the end, the next one is going to be a lot harder. I feel
Yeah.
like there's a lot of maturity in what you said too, as just like as we've all watched you grow as an athlete, just that mentality to like from wanting to keep it a secret to wanting to share it so you could, so everybody could level up and you could beat people at their best.
Yeah, yeah. I'm a coach. I coach a lot of athletes, and like I really enjoy coaching. I studied exercise science in college, and it was something that was a passion for me. And it's something that I want to be able to share with other people is that knowledge, and I'm not old. I'm only 33 years old, but like I am getting older, and I've been in the sport for like almost 9 years now. And so like I've learned a lot over the years, and I still feel like my best years are ahead of me. I still feel like I have a lot of fight and a lot of like really good performances ahead of me. But at the same time, like I'm kind of looking at how can I help other people as well? Like how can I help younger generations? You know, how can I just be a positive influence on the world and on the sport,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, help as many people as possible? Because honestly, that's what I feel like I'm on this earth to do is to help people and to serve people and to like just be a good person, and that's what I try and do each and every day.
Yeah. Do you feel like the coaching and the running, some in some ways it's a huge balance? I talk about this a lot in this podcast too, because this podcast has kind of evolved into like, okay, I've had this great career followed by dumps of like, just a dumpster fire of injuries and overtraining. And I'm trying to get back to that top level. And I truly believe that I have it. And something that I grapple with all the time is also someone who's a coach and I love it. And I feel like I'm a good coach, but I feel like that balance sometimes is quite difficult because I pour so much into my coaching, and I feel like if I don't know my athletes well, like I can't coach without like a lot of communication or effectively. Do you feel like that balance is ever difficult? Because not just from a time span standpoint, but also from just like an emotional availability standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, it can be sometimes. I'm a dad as well, so I got two
Yeah.
kids. I got a lot of little things that I'm balancing in life. But I feel like having the support of my wife has helped so much. Like she's very supportive. She definitely is my biggest fan, and she's always there to help me and support me in what I need to do. And she understands like, hey, I need time to do this, or like there's specific times of the year when I'm training really, really intense and I'm putting lots of hours, lots of miles in, and that's just what it's going to be during those periods of time. But like I make sure that I take a proper off season, and during that off season, I can spend more time with her and the kids. We can go on vacation. Like I can bring my family out to Europe with me if I'm going out to train out there or something like that. And so there is like a give and take with that, and it's just balancing and communicating back and forth with that. As a coach, yeah, like I do feel like I keep like a pretty small group of athletes. Like I know what my limits are, And I'm definitely not willing to go over that just for that reason, because I want to have balance. And I know that I'm still an athlete and I want to be the best athlete that I can be. So I need time for that. But I also feel like it's unfair for me to not give the time that each one of my athletes deserves and so I just I've gone too much with athletes before, and I know what my cap is, and so I think that's been good to learn that, and just I really do enjoy coaching because honestly, like I can't train all day, and like I especially coming off this like knee injury that I had last year, like I've learned that I don't need to train quite as much as I think I needed to train. And the coaching actually allows me to train, like to have something else so I don't overtrain. And it takes up some of my time so I can just like sit on the couch and coach and relax and not have to be thinking about training all the time or be thinking about like putting in more miles or whatever it is. And I think that's actually been a good thing for me.
Yeah, that's huge. Do you see yourself, say in 10 years when you start slowing down in your career, do you see yourself becoming a coach to elite athletes too? Or how do you see your coaching business grow? And I'm assuming now that you don't coach any elite athletes. I mean, for men, it might be a conflict of interest, but what do you
Yeah,
think? I'm
I mean,
curious.
I coach some athletes that are pretty good. Like I do coach a few athletes, that are right there at that elite level or fighting to become,
Mhm.
elite. Yeah, and like I do see like down the road, yeah, I enjoy probably coaching elites more. I would
Yeah.
say like people that I feel like I can push more. Like I felt like when I was graduating college, like one of the I guess career paths that I was thinking about taking was being a college coach
Mhm.
for track and field and cross country, and it always intrigued me to like be a coach that could really push these younger athletes to be their best and to like see athletes become all Americans and Olympians and whatever else. And I do like that side of coaching quite a bit, and I do, yeah, maybe down the road, when I have more time and I'm not competing at a professional level, like I could see myself potentially wanting to do that. But we'll see. Like I do enjoy coaching non-elites as well. So maybe I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. Or maybe if an opportunity arises where I can coach, let's say like a development trail team, or, if there's something like that down the road where we have
Totally.
elite trail teams,
That's where
like,
I was
yeah,
going with that, by the
I
way.
would
I
love to
was
do that. I think it'd be
like,
awesome.
yeah. I mean, I just see what Andy Wacker's doing with the trail team, and I think there's so much opportunity there, and I think there's a lot of opportunity with elite athletes right now who are already have the backing of brands that a transition outside of their own elite running would be to create teams, with and that'd be a way to like still represent the brand that you've been with pretty much your whole career. If I can't
Yeah,
remember,
I do think it's a bit difficult in the ultra space
yeah,
because there's so many distances, like, from short distance mountain running to 100-mile racing. And like, it'd be hard for the athletes to all train together, especially if somebody's training for Western States, somebody's training for US mountain running champs, right? Like,
totally,
but we could potentially figure out a way. I think like with cycling, with track and field, with road running, it's really easy to have these teams because they're all kind of training for the same events or relatively
yeah.
close events. But yeah, I do think it'd be kind of cool. And I've talked about this actually with friends and other people that I've trained with over the years. It's like, how cool would it be to have like an actual like trail team that's like dedicated to like becoming the best, I guess, trail runners or ultra runners in the world, and they all are in one location training together. Like it'd be pretty cool, I think.
Yeah, and I think even amongst training for different distances, I think the thing is like there'd be enough overlap that it would be beneficial. And then and that's only part of, at least to have like two people train together and like, three other people train together. But I think the thing that we are missing, especially as a former collegiate athlete myself, and someone who is just a fan of track and field is the team aspect. Not just the team aspect, but also in-person coaching, not necessarily having to be hands-on all the time, but just like, meeting with your coach a couple times a week, and having like a face-to-face conversation and stuff
Yeah.
like that I think has huge value that can be, that's like 2 out of the 3 pieces that that a track and field team has. So I think there's just so much potential there. And I really feel like that is the future of trail running.
Yeah, I mean, we see it in every other like endurance sport, right? And like we're getting a taste of it here too. In Cedar City, is like Dan Jones is here training with me, and me and Dan have the same coach. And
Nice.
so, like, he's not here with us, but he's like communicating with us in like group WhatsApp and like writing our plans. We have very similar plans because we're both training for Western States. But it's been so nice to have someone, like, even if it's like 1, 2, 3 people that you're training with, it's been so nice to wake up every morning. We're on a routine where we
Yeah.
run almost the same time every day. We have similar workouts. We have similar long runs. And really, I think where it's most beneficial is on those easy days when maybe you're a bit tired and you're like, I just don't really want to get out the door today. But like having another person to like kind of do it with makes a big difference. Or like on those long runs, it makes a really big difference. I think workouts don't always have to be together, but I think on those easy days and long runs, it does make a really big difference. And it's been really awesome having Dan here and seeing that, I guess, kind of happening here. It's been awesome.
Yeah, that's really fun. So your coach, you started working with him like 5 years ago, you said?
Yeah, something like that. I think it's 4 or 5 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. How'd you guys get in touch? Because he's in the UK, right?
He's British. He lives in Italy though.
Okay.
So yeah, him and his wife a couple years ago moved to Italy, and he's actually starting his own little kind of training camp, like training facility in
Wow.
Italy, which is really cool. I'll actually be going out and visiting him at that training facility just after CCC this year in September. But yeah, like we met. He was living in Chamonix. And me and my wife and my kids, we've been going to Chamonix every summer for like 6 out of the last 8 years,
Mhm.
and we stay like 2, 3 months out there usually in Chamonix or around that area. And one year we were living there training, and I was getting ready for Lavaredo that year. This was, I think, 2018, and he reached out to me and he's like, "Hey man, I live here in Chamonix. Would you want to go out for some runs?" So I went and started running with him, and yeah, we just clicked. Like he was training with me every day, and we were like, he was giving me a lot of advice and kind of became like a mentor for me. A couple years had passed, and like I didn't really like ask him to coach me, but then like things just kind of worked out where I was looking for a coach, and I was like, Robbie, like you're already mentoring me, like why don't you just become my coach? And so yeah, he's like, yeah, I'd love to. I'd love to help you and work with you. And so yeah, I got started working with him there, and it's been great. Like he's just really easy to talk to. He understands me. We work really well together. We communicate a lot together, and honestly, that's exactly what I needed. Somebody that is very knowledgeable about the sport, understands, and is always on the cutting edge of things, but also somebody who's willing to communicate, willing to really work with me and understand who I am as a person and try and help me, with that.
Mhm.
And then, yeah, like through me, Dan Jones got linked with him. He also coaches some other athletes like Scotty Hawker and Ronnie Sparks, and a lot of these like pretty good athletes. And so it's been awesome to work with Robbie and see kind of the development of me and his relationship together, but also his coaching business and where a
Yeah.
lot of these athletes, what a lot of his athletes are doing.
Wow, that's so cool that he's grown. What are some of the things that make this what are the ingredients to the successful coaching relationship? Because I feel like a coach is like uh uh the closest thing I can think is like a therapist, not in the sense that they give therapy, but like in the sense that like one therapist won't work for every person. So what are some of those ingredients that work for you and Robbie?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is getting to know your athlete, like
Mhm.
knowing what your athlete's like lifestyle is like, what their stresses are, what they can or can't handle, because if you just copy and paste the plan across and you like for every one of your athletes, some of them might respond well to it, but a lot of them won't because everybody's different, right? Some people have kids, some people don't. Some people work full-time jobs, some people don't. And it's like you got to know these things because you got to know how much time they have, how much mileage they can actually do, what type of workouts they can do, different things like that. Because it's all about managing that stress and keeping that balance as much as possible, right? Because like some people might be able to do 100-mile weeks and respond really, really well to it, but also they have the flexibility and the freedom to be able to do that and recover is the
Yeah.
biggest thing. Um, some people can only handle 50, 60 miles a week or even less. And knowing those things and like knowing how to find that balance or that sweet spot with all of your athletes is so key because that person that's running 50, 60 miles a week, because they're balanced, might still be able to beat that person running 100 miles a week because that 100-mile a week person is not balanced.
Yeah.
They're overtrained, they're stressed out of their mind all the time, different things like that. And so I do think like communication is key in this, and like knowing like how to communicate so you can adapt the plan and you can figure those type of things out, and like being adaptable as they go too. Like when I was younger, I could handle very big loads of volume and I was okay because I didn't have kids. I didn't have a house. I didn't have a lot of these other life things going on. But
Yeah.
as I've gotten older and I have these other responsibilities in life, I've realized that I have to lower that volume just a little bit and find my sweet spot because I have all these other things that I have to balance in life as well.
hmm Did you kind of figure that out through that injury process through knee surgery? I mean, that's what hit me in the face. So his hip surgery, I was like, I gotta chill.
Yeah, that and just like yeah, like bad performances. We always talk about like DNFs and bad performances as like these terrible things, right? Like, oh, that's like nobody wants, of course, to have those moments, but we always like put this negative connotation on those things. But sometimes those things can be a huge blessing in your life, and they can actually teach you more than good performances, because sometimes they're a slap in the face. Like, man, you did way too much before this like race. You were overtrained. You need to learn how to balance things a little bit better so you don't do that again.
hmm
And of course, not only bad performances, but injuries can do that as well. They can awaken you and they can kind of be a slap in the face. Like, you got to chill out a bit. You got to like not get distracted, or you got to like just be focused on the little things that are going to keep you healthy, whether that be strength training or stretching or whatever it is. And yeah, like the knee surgery helped me with that because like I think I was a bit overtrained going into Western States last year, which kind of led to the initial parts of that knee issue. And
hmm
then I just kept pushing through it. And then, of course, the fall and everything else that happened at Western States made it even worse. Like when it did give, it
Yeah.
gave. And it was like, oh, shoot, like now I'm going to have to get a knee surgery, because it's just completely gone.
Yeah.
But yeah, like learning how to recover, learning how to balance things after the surgery was definitely a really good thing for me. And it helped me realize that, hey, you need to take care of yourself better and you need to find that balance and that sweet spot. And I feel like I have now. And it's been a really key thing for me.
Yeah. That's huge. You know, when athletes, especially athletes who are kind of midway in their career, you've had a lot of success in your career. I wouldn't say you're at the beginning of it, and then they go through something as major as a knee surgery. Um, you know, we're faced with a lot of lows. And I just had Abby Hall on, and we kind of talked about how, that was terrible. It was a traumatic injury, and she was down in the dumps, and then how she kind of stayed positive through that was by just keeping the dream alive and trusting herself. How did you have any crazy lows? Or I mean, you might be, she doesn't have kids, so I'm sure the kids kind of keep it off your mind a little bit. But
Yeah,
how,
yeah. I would say my wife, my kids, my family, like moving back to Cedar City because we were living in Boulder. But moving back to Cedar City and being close to family was really good for me,
mhm,
especially for after the knee surgery. It did help me. It kept me balanced. It distracted me maybe from, some of those lows because I was able to like spend more time with my dad and spend more time with my brother and like had a really good time doing a lot of things with them. But yeah, like I think the biggest thing for me was questioning things
yeah.
like after I had the knee surgery and I was coming back, like you just think about like every little pain and you start like, oh man, why am I feeling that? Oh no, no, they're like, what's going on? Like, is things coming back? And a lot of the time it's just part of the recovery process. And like we all know when you're training hard, when you're getting back into shape, when you're recovering from an injury, it's never going to be perfect. There's always going to be little things, little aches and pains you're going to have to deal with. But it's learning like what is an injury and what's not an injury, what's just some training fatigue or some training like soreness that you're dealing with, and what's an actual injury. And like, but I would question everything. Like, I'd feel a little pain in my calf and be like, oh, I'm injured again. Like, what's going on? And it's like, no, 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 your calf is like not, it's not trained. Of course, like you've just upped your volume. Of course you might be a little sore in your calf. But it's just like little things like that. And like even questioning like, am I good enough to like, like before Black Canyon, like I had confidence, but I also had some doubts. Like, am I good enough to like win this race? Like, can I compete with these guys that have been training the entire fall? Like, I haven't, I've only had an 8 to 10 week training block. Like, how do I expect to like keep up with guys that have had, months and months and months of training and have been healthy? And it's those little things like that, but it's also like remembering who you are and remembering that confidence you had before and remembering that this isn't your first rodeo. Like you've been here before, you're experienced, you know what to do. And it's leaning on those things and trusting in those things and also like remembering that you can't control everything. You have to focus on what you can control and not focus on what you can't control. And that was like a big thing for me is coming to that like realization. And like even going into Western states now, like I still have some of those doubts that creep in every now and then, or I'll get tired from like a hard run and I'll be like, oh man, like how am I going to run 100 miles? Like that 25-mile run was hard. Like how am I going to do 75 more miles? But it's like I know I can. I've done it before. I
Yeah.
know I'm fit and I'm healthy now. Like, and that's what matters. And it will all come together on race day. You just have to trust and you have to have that confidence.
Yeah. That's such powerful advice. Again, as someone coming back, I've had so many doubts, especially because this injury, it wasn't quite like yours or Abby's where it was traumatic. I think so for background for you, I tore my glute medius and it detached at the insertion. And I was running on it for like 4 years and underperforming and underperforming, and wondering why. But you're right, and it's and mentally coming back from that, it's been tough to instill that confidence in myself, and b to remember that I can just I just need to control what I can control, and that's all that I need to worry about. You work with
And
a
it's just having that faith too, right? It's like having that faith that everything's going to be okay. Cause like, I'm not going to lie, there were some really hard moments coming back from injury. Like there were some days when I was like, man, I'm done. Like, I don't even want to do this anymore. Right. Like why? Like I could have a much more easier life than trying to get back into shape. Like I could be like going golfing with my dad instead of like going out for this, 2 hour run or whatever it is, or sitting on my indoor trainer and, biking and sweating to death just so I could try and get back into shape. But at the same time, it's like having that faith and also realizing that like this life is not supposed to be easy. Like trail running is not supposed to be easy. Running 100 miles is not easy. And so you can't expect it to be easy. Like you can't expect the process to running 100 miles to be easy. Like sometimes you just got to like cowboy up and be like, I just got to get to work and I got to keep working and I got to keep grinding. And I don't need to expect it to be easy. Like it's supposed to be hard, but because it's hard, it's making me a better person. It's making me a better athlete. It's helping me grow. It's helping me learn. And it's okay to go through hard things. Like,
Yeah,
and it was just like learning how to like, I guess, toughen up a bit and
totally.
not be soft, because I would say like after my injury, I got into this routine where I was maybe a bit soft because I had to be because it was the only way I was going to heal. But
Yeah.
then after I got healthy, it was learning how to toughen up again and to be like, okay, like this is what it's supposed to feel like, right? This is what it felt like before. And it's okay.
I went through that too, and it's funny because you have to toughen up. When you're in it and you're fit, even though it's hard, it still feels good. But when you're unpracticed, none of it feels good, until you get to the point where you're like, oh, finally, it's clicking. But you have to trust that. And the other thing that stuck out to me there is like you have to have faith that the hard work's going to pay off in some way and that it's going to work, but also you have to have faith and be okay that with the uncertainty at the end, that like the payoff might not be what it looks like, even if you hope it is. And in your case, it is, it's going pretty well for you right now, but that like, you
Yes
can,
and no. It went well at Black Canyon, but after Black Canyon was
did
terrible.
you have a tough time after Black Canyons?
Well, yeah. So after Black Canyon, I got injured again. But
Okay.
it was kind of like my fault. Like I got a bit greedy after Black Canyon and was tried to jump back into training too quickly. And like anybody who's ran Black Canyon knows it's a hard race, especially on the body, especially early season. Like you
Mhm.
have to run so fast, and it's a pretty like it's not extremely smooth. Like it's a little technical, but it puts a lot of like stress on the body. And so after I jumped back into training too quickly, and I strained my calf, like my
Mm,
calf just completely gave out on me. And I was like, what the heck? Like I've never had a calf strain before. Like what's going on? But I think it was just like, my body wasn't used to running 100K. I hadn't run 100K in a long, long time.
yeah.
And I put more stress on the body than I thought. And of course, the body just gave out a little bit after because I jumped back into workouts. I jumped back into some pretty good volume right after. Strained my calf. And then that led to my knee actually, like, because my knee was healed, but it wasn't like fully healed, I would say.
Mhm.
Like there was still like the doctor told me when I had the surgery, it would take at least a year for it
Yeah.
to fully heal. And so it was good enough to race on. It was good enough to train on, but I was managing it a lot. And like it wasn't completely healed. And because of my calf strain, I started compensating on my knee again. And
Hmm.
that patellar tendonitis kind of started flaring back up in my knee. And so there was like a 8 week period after Black Canyon where I couldn't do much. Like
Yeah.
you look on my Strava, I post everything on Strava. I'm not afraid to put it on there, but like it was an 8 week period where it was pretty terrible. Like I did a little bit, but it was very, very hit or miss what I could do because I was dealing with two things going on at once.
That's so tough. Yeah, I feel like coming back too fast. I came back way too fast from surgery and it put me out. And basically, I had an 8 week period before Black Canyon, so where immediately before where I couldn't train. um, but yeah, it's tough. Um, I want to go back to faith, and something that you talk about a lot is how important the church is for you and that community. And, as someone, I, have my grandmother is Catholic, but other than going to church with her, maybe 5 times in my whole life, that's it. But I have been inspired, particularly by you and by my teammate, Mario Mendoza, who's a pastor. I've been inspired just by the communities of certain churches and of people that I meet, and Carson and I actually have been playing around with the idea of joining our church, like with neither of us have really been to church in our whole life, but how does that faith translate to your running and into your day to day?
Yeah. I think this kind of goes back to the injury process too that I had to deal with, after the surgery. I'm a man of faith. I'm a Christian. I belong to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. But I believe that anybody that believes in something and has faith, in a higher being, it's important. It's really important for to have faith in something, to have a belief, in something. And I do believe that like it helps you as an individual, as a person, to want to be a better person.
Yeah.
And it gives you kind of an outlet, or it gives you something to rely on when things do get hard, or when because if you're just focused 100% of the time on running and training and different things like that, that's not balance to me. Like you have to have something else in life that means just as much or even more to you.
Mm-hmm.
And I that's what my faith is. Like my faith means way more to me than my running does. And so it's something that I can rely on when my running is maybe not going the way that I would want it to. And I
Yeah.
feel like it gives me strength, it gives me balance to like be able to like get through those hard moments, but also find that balance with my running, because I have these two passions or these two loves, and one is even deeper than the other one. And like I said, that's my faith, but it helps me to like really find that balance. And it keeps like it's something that my family can rely on. It's
Yeah.
something that makes me want to be a better person. It makes me it makes me want to be a better husband, a better father, a better community member, a better runner, because I am relying on something that I guess can't control. And that is like God. Like God, I believe God directs my life. And, and that helps me knowing that I have someone there to help me, to guide me through life. And it's something that I do truly believe in. Um, being able to go to church on Sunday with my family. It's a time when I don't have to think about running, where I can just focus on my community, my family, my faith. And yeah, it just makes me a well-rounded person, I guess you'd say.
Yeah.
And I think like it's something that I've always relied on throughout my life, and it's something that I will continue to rely on throughout my life, is my faith.
Yeah.
So.
That's amazing. And clearly has made you very strong. Again, I'm just curious, what was it like growing up in that? It's just such a different way than I grew up, and it is so inspiring and very special. I think it probably, you probably had a really exceptionally strong community around you.
Oh yeah. Like that's one thing that if you've ever been to Utah, like you'll learn with Utah is people are really community driven. They're very family driven, very family based.
Mhm.
Like everything is centered around the family here, on how to grow the family, how to become a stronger family unit. And that's something that, yeah, like I have a really strong relationship with my family, I think, because of that.
Mhm.
Like we did everything together growing up. And, I think like a lot of it was our faith too. Like growing up, my dad was volunteered in the church,
Hmm.
And he did a lot of things. Like he worked with youth groups, he worked with young adults, people that were maybe struggling, as adults to like find jobs or financial support or different things like that. And he was involved with a lot of those different things to like help those people, either get on their feet or to become, stronger citizens or stronger human beings. And I think a lot of like the church and the faith and the different things that I learned growing up was based around that. Like, how can we strengthen other people around us? Like, not only
Hmm.
strengthen ourselves, but then once we strengthen ourselves, we grab a hold of everybody else around us and we bring them with us.
Yeah.
We all become a strong community, and we unify together. And so like, yeah, I think that was definitely something that was awesome.
Yeah.
um, I think that there are sometimes like negative connotations with, I guess, church going people or like Mormons, in general. And people have a lot of different like views or things like misconceptions.
Hmm.
Um, but as you can tell, like I'm a pretty normal person. I just, I go to church on Sunday. I'm very, community driven.
Yeah.
I love my family to death. I love my community. And those are things that I learned, going to church and having faith. And
And it's so funny.
it's
And
great.
those are the things that you listed are the things that people strive for in their lives and
Yeah,
find so hard. If you look at the, chaos of the average person's life, I feel like, you are living the dream and in part due to the church. And tell me, and also tell me to pass on this question if you want to,
no,
but
you could.
I just, as a kid, kids are so curious and growing up in this. Like, did you ever have any doubts? And if so, how would you talk about that with your family and your friends?
Yeah, I think everybody has doubts. And if you don't have doubts, I would question your faith or you as a human being.
Yeah.
Because, and this is one thing that we stress like within the church, and it's something that I stress to my kids, is you need to know for yourself that what you are following or what you are doing is true. Do not rely on my testimony or my, opinion on it. Like, don't rely on anybody's opinion on it. You find for yourself what it is that is best for you and what it is that you need to do, or the type of person that you want to be. And then once you find that, you grab a hold of it and you follow it as hard and as strong as you possibly can, and you go all in on it. And this is one thing that I teach my kids. It's one thing that my dad taught me. Like, my dad and my mom, they didn't expect me to just go to church and follow what they were doing. No, they said, you find for yourself if this is what you want to do and if this is, true. And then you figure it out for yourself and then you decide. And so, yeah, like I questioned things when I was a teenager. Like, there were moments in time where I didn't go to church very much. I questioned if I was going to go on a mission for 2 years. That's a big life commitment. There's even moments now where sometimes maybe there's doubts or things that creep in. And that's common, right? We talked about this earlier with training and with life. You're always going to have doubts, but it's relying on your faith. It's finding out for yourself if that is true. It's, whatever it takes, praying, reading your scriptures, going to a church to see if that's what you want to do.
Hmm.
But I don't expect anybody to just follow blindly.
Yeah.
No, like they need to figure out for themselves, and then they need to go in if that's what they feel like they need to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's healthy. It's natural to be that way.
Yeah. Wow. Powerful stuff. So, what are some things that you do now, both in running and in faith, when you might experience periods of doubt?
Yeah, I think like a lot of it is, I would say like my wife is a big strength. Like I I talk with her, like if I have a doubt or something that I'm dealing with, whether it be with running or with life, or like sometimes I don't think I'm a good enough dad, like how can I be a better father, or whatever it is. I sit down and I'm a talker. Like I like to like talk it out with somebody that I trust and that I love.
Mhm.
And my wife is my anchor. I mean, she's the person that I go to for that. And we communicate back and forth. We talk about it. I figure out a plan or a solution, or I try and figure something out in my head. And then I will usually pray about it. I do believe in the power of prayer. And I do believe that, God will talk to me and he'll give me answers to my prayers. So I do pray about it, and then I come up with a plan. I don't believe that I should just sit there and be like, okay, God, it's your turn. Like you do it all for me. No, I believe in action. And I believe that once you take action, like if it's the right way, or if it's the right way to go, then it'll work out. It'll work itself out. And so I do that. Like I will talk to my wife, I'll talk to God, and then I'll get to work and I'll put forth the action and I'll do what I think is right. And sometimes it is right, sometimes it's not, but that's life. And then
Mhm.
you go back to the drawing boards and you find out another thing, and then you go back to work, and you figure out if that's the way. And
Yeah.
sometimes it takes 3, 4, 5 times, but you learn throughout those times that maybe you failed, and then finally at some point it does click.
Yeah.
And I believe that that's you can call it what it is, but like I believe that that's because all of those people or those things are involved, to help make that happen.
Yeah.
And things don't always have to be overthought either. Like sometimes if it's a good thing, most of the time it's probably the right thing to do.
Yeah.
If it's a bad thing and it's a bad thing, most of the time it's probably not the right way to go. And
Yeah.
that's just what it is.
Yeah. A huge thing that Carson and I talk about is listening to our gut, like our deepest instinct.
Yeah.
And that has guided us a lot, and who knows what that is. But I feel like we do have like a deep inner knowing of what to do if we listen.
Yes.
What would you tell someone who is maybe curious about, knows nothing, curious about religion and church and the community, is drawn towards the community, but is just nowhere, like doesn't know where to start?
Yeah. Yeah. I would like, I think I've talked about this a little bit so far, is like, first of all, be a good person. We
Hmm.
all know there's that, like you said, that gut feeling, that inner voice that tells you what it means to be a good person, right? And follow that.
Hmm.
Follow that, whatever you want to call it, the spirit, your instinct, your gut, whatever you want to call it, it'll tell you what to do. And you follow that and you try and be the best person that you can be. Stop thinking so much about yourself.
Hmm.
um, Try and think more about others and what you can do to help others, because you know we talk about charity, and like there's scriptures that talk about how charity is the pure love of Christ, or charity is the closest thing to God, or whatever it is. And it's true. When you put yourself out there and you're trying to help other people, and you're being charitable, and you're striving to help this world or help others, that's when you're going to be at your best. That's when you're going to be closest to God, or
Hmm.
whatever it is. So, yeah, try and be a good person. Think about others. Stop thinking about yourself. And then, yeah, like if you're trying to decide, like, should I go to church or should I not? Should I pray? Should I not? Is this actually like going to help me? Just do it. Like, go test it out, right? Like, say a little prayer. Like, it's not going to hurt you to kneel down and say a few words to God and see if it helps. Like,
Yeah.
it's not going to hurt you to go to church on one Sunday. Like,
Totally.
right? You're only going to learn. Like, we all want to be more educated. We all want to like learn and grow and become more educated in this world. Well, yeah, why don't you just go try it out? And if you don't like it, then don't go back. Like
Yeah.
if you like it and it seems like it helps, keep going and test it out and see what happens. It's the same thing with running, right? Like people
Yeah.
talk about like, can I finish an ultra? Can I do it? I don't know if I can. Well, you'll never know unless you try.
Yeah.
Like sign up for a 50K and go and see what it's like. And then you can decide if you want to be a road runner or a trail runner or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like, why not? Like, this life's too short to sit here and question everything. Like,
True.
I think like it's important to just put yourself out there and try things.
That's so cool. Man, this is fun. I'm curious too, and just in the realm of, faith and family, I see so much in my friends who are runners and have families, how hard it is, especially amongst elite athletes, and you have two, both you and Ashley run at a very high level, and I'm sure she has her own dreams. And I imagine that this, you know, commitment to family in this really powerful way and unique way makes it easier to balance each other's goals.
Yeah, for sure. Me and Ashley met at Southern Utah University on the track and field team. We were both collegiate, very competitive collegiate athletes, very good collegiate athletes. And then after college, I got the opportunity to, of course, run pro. Ashley, tried to make it work, when we first graduated college, but didn't quite work out how she wanted to. That's just what happens sometimes. And then we decided to have a family. Like she
Yeah.
wanted to have a kid. I wanted to have a kid. So we decided to go in on having a family. And now like we're at a point where I'm still, of course, running professionally, still really chasing the dream. It's also like, it's a way for me to provide for my family as well. It's a source of income. So it does like mean a lot to us.
Mhm.
But Ashley has kind of changed a little bit with her, I guess, desires and passions and dreams. She still wants to run. She loves running. And she's still, she's going to run the U.S. mountain running champs in Salt Lake City in July. And she's signing up for a race when we go out to Europe. But she's kind of gotten to this point now where she feels like she loves being a mom. She just
Yeah.
really loves being a mom. And she wants to dedicate herself to being the best mom that she can possibly be. And if that means running has to take a little bit of a backseat, it's okay for her. Like she loves doing other things in life as well. And she's not so, I guess, consumed with being a professional athlete.
Yeah.
And she loves supporting me as well as a pro runner and as her husband. And like, I can't, thank her enough for all that she's done for me. I could not balance the training blocks I do and the coaching and travel and everything else if it wasn't for her. But one thing, like I told her when we first got married, is I said, I promise you that I will support you in whatever dreams and goals and desires that you have in life. That was the first promise I made. Even if it means that I have to take a little bit of a lower seat if that's what it takes. And I said also, I will take you around the world and we will have an amazing adventure together. We're going to have a wonderful life together. And so that's kind of like what we have focused on is like, we've had different, I guess, stages in life where maybe she's has this big goal she's going after, and I take a little bit of a step back and I support her in that. And then I have this big goal and she does the same thing for me. And we've been able to like balance that really well through life. And it's through that communication that we have together. And then we both have a love and a passion for travel and seeing the world and experiencing life together. And so when we had kids, like everybody told us, oh, you're not going to be able to travel as much now. Like, you have kids and whatnot. And we said, no, it's not true. Like, we'll just take them with us. And
Mhm.
yeah, maybe it'll be a little harder and we'll have to find more balance, but it'll be fun. And so like, that's what we're doing is like, we're supporting each other in our goals, but we're also like we still have that goal of like traveling and seeing the world together and having this amazing adventure together. And so that's what we're continuing to do. Like we're going to Europe for 3 months, after Western States, and we're bringing the kids with us, and we're going to be living out there and seeing a bunch of different countries after CCC. Of course, we'll focus for CCC, and then after CCC, travel a bit around Europe.
Yeah,
And I think like, yeah, it's been fun. It's been an awesome, marriage together, and we're best friends, and we still just really love each other so much, and we've had these amazing time together.
that's amazing. What's it mean to you to have your kids at the finish line and to watch you race?
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, like they can't come to every race, of course,
Yeah.
but they do come to a lot of races, and yeah, it's pretty cool. It's just funny though. Like my son's 6 now, and I don't think he quite understands still. Like he's finally starting to understand the whole process and what it takes, but like he still will come up to me after and be like, "Dad, why didn't you win?" Like if I take second or third or whatever, and he's like, "Why did you let that guy beat you?" And I'm like, "Hey man, I tried. I really tried." And so he's pretty hard on me. He expects me to win everything. He expects me to give him a trophy after every single race.
That's so
But
funny.
I try and do the best I can. But yeah, it's fun. It's awesome having them there. But I think most importantly, it's awesome having them through the process to get to the race. Like
Totally.
having them out in Chamonix and having these experiences of family is just really fun and really cool.
Yeah, that'll be really special. Not a lot of kids get to go travel around Europe at 6 years old.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if they'll even remember it, to be honest with you. Like he remembers some things,
Yeah.
but at the same time, like we just want to like be as close as we can as a family. And
Hmm.
if that means we have to spend a little extra money and everybody's got to go out to Europe together, like the experiences we have as a family doing that are unbeatable. I mean, it's just, we have so many stories and so many amazing things that we've experienced,
Hmm.
Australia, New Zealand, across Europe, it's just so much fun to do it as a family.
Yeah. Where are you going after CCC?
So we're going to be, um, let's see. So right after CCC, I think we're going to go to Annecy for a week.
Hmm.
Just do a little vacation on the lake there as a family. The kids love the beach, so they play in the sand, have a good time. And then after that, we're going to actually be going over to Switzerland, and I'm going to actually be doing some commentating at the Wheeled Strubel event. Yeah, I did some commentating at Canyons, and I guess they liked it enough that they invited me to come do some at the Switzerland event. Uh,
Nice.
so we'll go to Switzerland for a week, and then after that, we're actually going to go down to Slovenia. Um, and Ashley is going to run a 50K there at the Julian Alps in Slovenia. We've always really wanted to go to Slovenia, the Lake Bled area, which we've heard is just amazing. And so we're going to go down there, and then we're going to go over to Italy to my coach's place and see his training facility and spend a week there. So yeah, like kind of just a little bit of a big circle there on the south of France and all that area down there.
Yeah.
And then like next winter, most likely we're going to be heading back to New Zealand actually for 3 months. And so
Tarawera or just to train?
train, yeah, do some spearfishing down there. Yeah, I have my buddy Dan who's staying here. He's big into spearfishing, and so I really want to like learn how to spearfish. So we're gonna go down and dive and do some spearfishing and train as well.
Awesome.
And just we love New Zealand. We love the culture there. We love the people. Live a little bit of that island life, I guess you'd say. It's a little different than Hawaii,
Yeah,
but
a little
um,
bit.
a little bit, but and then yeah, maybe I'll run Tarawera or do something. Get out of the winter. I'm not a big fan of the snow and the cold, and so like I like to escape the winters whenever I can. So
Yeah.
it's summer in New Zealand, so it'll be perfect.
I have a feeling that'll become a regular thing for you guys once you spend more winter over there. I thought I
Yeah.
was just going to go back for one winter in Hawaii, and here I am.
Yeah, maybe one year we'll go to Hawaii. I've been to Hawaii a couple times, but I've actually never been to the Big Island. I'd love to go there.
Yeah,
So
please do. It's always fun to have visitors there that I can show all the, fun trails
yeah.
throughout the island. But last question before we go. What is something that you're proud of that running related, not running related, that you might not have talked about before? It might not necessarily be obvious.
Yeah. Actually, I had a message that was sent to me over Instagram a few days ago, and I won't name who it is, of course. But I had a guy who sent me a message, and he was from Australia, and I went down and raced a race down in Australia a couple years ago called the Kosciuszko
Mm.
100K down there, and I ended up like winning the event and having a really good day out on the course there, and really connected with the Australian community while I was down there. And I finished, won the race, had a good time, and I didn't think anything of it. I was just like, yeah, like cool, another race. Well, I get a message. This is like 2 years later, right? I get a message from this guy on Instagram, and he says, "Hey, Hayden, I just wanted to let you know how much of an inspiration you are to me." He said, "I was at the finish line at Kosciuszko, and he said, and I at that moment, I wasn't in the greatest spot in my life. He said I was pretty overweight, like hadn't exercised in a long time, didn't really, know what I was going to be doing with life and whatnot. And he said, watching you cross the finish line and watching, you perform like that was inspiration for me to make me want to start exercising again." And he
Wow.
said, "I started exercising again and I've lost a whole bunch of weight. I'm healthy. I'm happy." And he said, and I'm in a really good spot in life now. And it meant so much to me, to be honest with you, to hear that. Because I was like, sometimes I think to myself, like, I'm just a runner. Like, I'm just out here, like, pretty selfish, to be honest with you. Like, it's a selfish sport. It kind of has to be
Hmm.
to like be at your best. Like you put in so many hours, away from friends, away from family. You're just out there by yourself in the mountains running all day, right? And then you're performing at these races, and your whole focus is winning, right? Or like performing at your best. And it's kind of like sometimes I wonder, like, could I be doing more with my life? Like, could I be inspiring more people, or helping, some kids, or doing something else that would I guess do more for society and for the world. But hearing that come from this guy, it really meant a lot to me, because it was like, wow, I am actually doing something for people and I don't even realize it.
Yeah.
Like me performing at a really high level and saying hi to somebody, or being a nice person, and giving people the time of day, like it does stuff like that, right? Like it changes somebody's life.
Yeah.
They get inspired by it, and then boom. And so, yeah, I was really grateful that he shared that with me. And I would say like those little moments are probably the things that mean the most to me in life. And honestly, those are bigger than any race wins I've ever had. And if I can continue to do that, that's what I hope that I can do in life.
Wow. That's a great note to end on. Thanks, Hayden.
Yeah.
Anything
Sorry,
else?
I was a bit long winded, but
No, that
no,
was honestly perfect. That was the
yeah.
perfect closing note.
No,
Well,
good conversation. Yeah, I'm excited. Are you going to be at Western States or?
I'm not this year.
Okay.
I was gonna work an aid station, but just with some life complications, it's gonna be a little expensive for us to get out there this year. But hopefully next year, either racing or working that aid station, it was gonna be the one. I think it's Cal 2, I think.
Also,
Yeah, Cal 2. So
awesome.
hopefully I'll be there next year or starting the race, depending.
Well, I hope to see you soon. Good luck with everything. Good luck with, you said you're running Eiger. Good luck with that.
Yeah, I learned a lot here to apply to Eiger, so thanks. I'm stoked. I
Yeah,
ran it
yeah.
in 2018, but it was a weather year and we all got pulled off the course.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
50K.
Well, hopefully it's good weather this year and you're able to go and do the whole course. And yeah, good luck with everything. Thanks for having me on the podcast, and good luck to everybody out there that's training really hard right now. I know there's a lot of people just putting in a lot of hard work to get ready for their summer race schedule. Yeah, good luck with all your goals this summer. And yeah, I hope that I can put on a good performance at Western States for everyone.
Well said, and good luck to you at Western, Hayden. Can't wait to watch.
Thank you.
You look around.